Today we take it all the way back to when Wargaming started making these weird and wacky tanks, and of course today's video is showcasing the Concept 1B. This is an American tier 9 medium / heavy tank. It is technically a heavy tank, but it plays more like your medium, kind of heavy medium, and to be honest with you, it has superb accuracy. It has this weird wacky turret that you can see, and it was basically, if you've ever seen the recent introduction of the Yo tanks in World of Tanks PC, then you'll know exactly this sort of turret design, and it was already released within World of Tanks PC, as with console, typically following the traditional way in which World of Tanks works, is that World of Tanks PC will come up with an idea, a concept, they'll as released with this tank, the Concept 1B, they'll whack it in the game, and then about a year later, World of Tanks console decide, maybe we should actually introduce this into the game. Usually there's some slight differences, and today's video will be talking about those differences. If you want to get an idea as to how powerful this thing is on the PC version, because it is regarded as one of the strongest ones, if you've ever watched any of the PC content creators, then you'll know kind of how powerful the Concept 1B can be. But with regards to the tank on console, there are a few slight changes, and I feel like this tank kind of gets the improved accuracy. This is what makes this tank so amazing, is that the ability to hit on the move whilst also travelling at 40 kilometers an hour. A lot of the time, if you're playing a tank like this, a heavy tank, you'll typically be expecting not to really hit on the move, because you, although being very slow, also have this kind of really bad accuracy, and this just is not the case with the Concept. That's why I think the medium tank characteristics of playing like this kind of really help out the Concept 1B, because you're allowed to actually do things that mediums would typically not be able to do, like side scraping against an Emil 2 here, whilst also being able to snapshot various different tanks, being able to pinpoint all of the weak points, and just being able to be a right menace to the majority of enemy team. Now, you'll see already within this game we picked up 2,000 damage, which is a very, very good result, albeit, in a game where maybe it is looking like we're kind of getting outnumbered, we're getting flanked, but the thing with the Concept 1B is that if you can get it into a position where you get hold down, like you're seeing here against opponents, they really cannot do anything. They can't dig you out, they can't really find any way of stopping you from doing what you want to do, and that is something I've always enjoyed about the Concept 1B in particular, and just the kind of the movement and the flexibility of the tank, which make it one of my favourite heavy tanks to actually play. I haven't featured it very many times on the channel, and I guess that's just because it's a tank that not very many people have, unless you of course played the Action Hero season at which it was released, which was a very good kind of this season. That's when they used to give out a lot of tier 10s and tier 9s within the game for free as part of the season passes, and this is the case in point. This is one of those tanks. And you can see that within this game, 3,000 damage, make that just over 3,000 now, is very easy to do with the Concept. And I feel like this tank really lends itself towards players that like to be super aggressive, that like to get forward, that like to be the kind of the mobile heavy, the ones that don't want to just kind of corner fight, the ones that kind of want to move about, get into hold down positions, and really try and impact the game in a different way to your traditional heavy. And that is exactly what the Concept offers, and that's kind of what the Concept looks like too. So that's why the untraditional looks of the Concept 1B kind of make it seem like it's something completely different, and that's what kind of is refreshing within World of Tanks. I'm glad that World of Wargaming brought these sort of tanks into the game. It gives you another aspect of the game. They're not super game breaking, you're not going to be completely trashing the game, and that's what's always beneficial. And you can see here what we're doing is just trying to get a few shots into the tank that's decided he's going to get into that position, which is of course not a good idea if you want to have a good game. And we'll put a couple rounds into him, and now at this point let's just go in. Why not have a bit of a laugh and see how it goes? And of course we're on a bit of a ledge here, and we managed to shut him down, but Yeah, what an interesting end of the result, ending up on the cliff edge there. But a really good game in the Concept 1B, kind of showcases the speed, the maneuverability, the firepower of the tank to be able to get into scenarios that most heavy tanks would not be able to do, and 4,726 damage, 1,400 base experience, nothing like a 9k damage game that you'll see on the World of Tanks PC channel that I've recently done, and I'll link at the end of this video, but we'll get into another replay in just a second. The next replay we have to showcase is on El Haloof, and this replay is actually a really interesting one that I was not expecting. It never usually works out on console going in where I ended up within this game, and with the Concept 1B it allows you to do things that you don't expect, which is something I've always enjoyed about the tank itself. Sometimes I always felt like the DPM maybe hindered the tank from you being able to do the like 12,000 damage game or whatever it might be, you know, like the pinnacle damage games within World of Tanks console, and that's kind of where I think the concept kind of fell short, was the DPM. However, the problem is that the concept isn't like that, and if you actually compare the reload of the tank to some of the other tier 9 heavy tanks, it is in very good kind of a spot, to be honest with you, and that means that you are able to get out quite a decent chunk of damage against opponents that are tier 10. You know, this tank is definitely one of those that you can perform even at tier 10, even if you have potato aim like I just had. But regardless of the aim, the tank is also something I wanted to talk to you guys about as to what you actually think of these more novel and niche tanks that are kind of different and have something else to them. I wanted to ask whether you enjoy seeing these come into the game, or whether you think that wargaming end up changing so much about these kind of style and play style of tanks that it actually ends up ruining it and changing it too much to the point where it starts to affect the gameplay. Now, obviously that is very dependent on your own personal kind of play style, whether you enjoy it, or a variety of different things. It's not necessarily all down to the tanks themselves. Sometimes it's just that the feature that the tanks kind of have make them slightly more prone to being, I guess, overpowered or more stronger within the game and that sort of thing. But with this tank, it lends itself to just being superb and really fun to play, even against tanks like the IS, who's decided he's just going to YOLO, and you're not that heavy IS to warrant ramming into us. Luckily we have good penetration, you know, we're not going to have too much trouble, and this is what I mean by this was a scenario I did not expect to come out okay with. We've got an Object 268 version 5 who's set up on the ridgeline, who's trying to get some shots into us. Luckily he misses that one, obviously firing heat because 268 version 5, and you can see here we have still survived, and to be honest at this point I was thinking, oh my god, I've actually survived coming down into the dip here. But if you can get into the dip before you get taken out into this sort of position, and you have a turret that the Concept 1B actually has, then yeah, you can still survive, you can do really well. And although most tanks, even with a turret, do not fare too well because of the slimline profile of the Concept 1B and having the kind of weird profile that it does, it means that from above it can actually be hard to hit, like down onto it, whereas most tanks, they're very strong from the front in terms of the turret strength. But as soon as someone starts looking down onto your turret, 9 times out of 10 they're going to be able to pen you, and that is the case in this replay, is that is something they can't do. You can't just get penned with the Concept 1B from above. Sometimes they will bounce, sometimes they won't be able to pen you, and that's kind of where I find this tank is super strong within the game. And I think that this bit of the gameplay really showed what I really enjoy about the tank, and how you can play them completely differently to the standard traditional meta tanks or normal tanks that you think would be really good, and that's how they differ. I've really enjoyed it, and of course if you want to actually pick up this tank, it will cost you a fortune because wargaming things, and Tier 9 premiums being worth like 20,000 gold is apparently okay, but hopefully it will come on like an earn operation sometime soon where you can actually pick it up. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of months, as of the recording this video, it becomes free again for people to be able to pick up as part of a said challenge or whatever it might be. And hopefully that is the case, because it is beneficial for everyone basically to be able to get their hands on this tank, because it brings something new and it will get you used to when eventually the Yo tanks come into console. And if you haven't actually looked at those, I guess you can have a look at one of the videos we had on the PC channel where we looked at these Yo tanks, YOH. They're very, very novel, and they've got these very slimline profile turrets. They're usually quite like bulbous hulls, and yeah, they're very, very strange, and we've got a good replay of that. We've also got a replay of the Concept 1B on PC that we can compare to, so if you're interested in either of those, I really recommend you actually check those out on the PC channel. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to that, because it will help me out massively. And if you aren't subscribed to this channel, then go down and subscribe as well. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section down below and I'll try my best to answer them. Thank you once again, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.